Yesterday I painted Loch Linney in Scotland, and today I'm back in Scotland, virtually I should say, unfortunately not for real, and I've got this magical castle there with some sheep and some lambs. Look at the colour, it's beautiful, beautiful colour. So I want to try and see if I can keep this bright green and get the water right. And what is nice is the shape of the hillside in the background, the old castle, of course, which speaks for itself. It's magical. The dappled light on this tree is good, and the way it frames our picture is rather nice. And I like the shadow, the cloud shadow that's cast on the hill there, that sort of purpley bluey colour, that little shape in the middle of the valley there. And what I've got to try and do is keep this hillside slightly greyed out, very muted green, and also there. But this hill in the foreground here is much brighter green, and that's because it's in front of us. It's nearer to us, so that's what is. I've got to get the balance right between the muted colour there, dark purple there, slightly richer green there, nice rich green in here, but we've got our darker greens along the shoreline as well. And in front of our castle we've got this bright light. The light is obviously coming from the right hand side, coming in this direction. So we've got this side lit up, and in parts of it there's some old ruins which are not in the bright sunlight, so they're dark. And this little castellation here, and this big buttress, or this great big wing, what would you call that? I'm not sure. This big slightly curved structure here, and that is in the shadow, this side anyway, on the left side, and that wall, and this end of that sort of gable of the old ruin there, that's darker. So let's have a go at that anyway. You'll see I've sketched it out, a rough sketch anyway, so I'm going to push on and see what we can do with that. Start out with our sky wash. I want to keep it looks bright there. It must be a summery scene there. And it doesn't come down that far, does it? It comes about there. Doesn't matter if we go over somewhat with our water over our land side, because we'll be letting the sky dry before we press on with that. So let's have a go at that. I've got some blue remaining in my palette here, which is cerulean blue, a little bit of ultramarine. So I'm going to make up a little bit stronger so I can. It's going to dry a lot lighter. I don't want to be disappointed when it dries, so I'm going to beef it up with my cerulean. It's a nice brightish blue. So let's have a go then. We'll just dab it in, I think. It's coming down here. You can see the way the water is perfusing down now. Into our paper, as it's This is Langton's Rough, which is £140 weight. I'm going to leave it like that, I think. There are a few clouds showing, but I've got to be very careful about going back. Even when it may not be perfect, but by going back can make problems. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And let's get our foreground in. It's a general muted sort of green. I'm going to have some darks as well. I've got sheep in the foreground as well. I'm going to fairly light here with my little sweeping. I've got a mother there with her lamb suckling, I think, and this little shoreline here. When it's wet, you can put in other shades of green, which is probably a good idea to grab that opportunity. Right, like that. And I'm going to use a slightly different brush. This is a 3/4 inch flat one. And you can get some nice sort of shapes and textures by using this shape. So I've got different greens, sap green, viridian, which is a bit lurid, and there are hooker's green. So I can mix that with a little bit of ochre, yellow ochre, and you get some nice greens like that. So I'm going to dab some different colours in. This was a little bit darker on the shoreline there, and under the shadow of this tree was quite a bit darker. So I'm going to try and capture some of that. Right. Right, it comes in like that, and can do some darker bits, a little bluier green this time. Try and get some texture and shadow there. And put some here. And there's also some greeny. I think I'll keep it very smooth and flat for the moment. I'm going to go back with some reddish texture for this. Looks like old bracken actually. Let's see what we can get. A bit of red, a little cadmium red there, in with our little bit of raw sienna. And yes, we could drop a little bit in these places. Just to give us some idea of some texture. I can go in a little bit later with a drier brush or a thicker paint, thicker and drier, and that will be better when it's dry. At the moment the paper is quite damp, so will diffuse, which I want to some extent, but I also want later to lay some thicker, more intense colour on it. Let's leave it at that for the moment. Although I just notice, I think I can put a bit of green, more intense, under there. A little bit of a bank of greens there. Right, leave it at that for the moment. And then we'll come back for something a little to create some sort of variety. Right, so let's see if we can get the water in. I'm going to just sweep a little of this cerulean in there. It comes right up here, right to our shoreline. A little rocky out. I think we'll put some different colours in. Try and capture the... This is the same blue that I use for the sky because it's reflecting the sky. And along the shore over there, you have some sort of greenish colour, darker greens. So this is a and it comes under the shadow of the castle. We've got some as green as well. Trying to gently sweep in a little bit. can soften these edges a little bit with my brush slightly drier here. And this transition from that green to the water, I want to be very soft edged, so it reads a bit more real. Need to soften up here with a slightly damper brush. Right, time to get in the background for this hillside, and the key thing here is I've got to be very careful to get it very muted. See if I can get a very muted green, so it's in the distance, further away. Yes, that's, again, I've got to remember it will dry a lot lighter, so I've got to be mindful of that. It looks fairly muted, and it comes down on our hillside down to the shoreline here. I shall put in a darker greens in a minute, but let's call that more or less what we're after. I'm trying to paint round the castle. I'm going to drop in some different shades there, and in the background I've got to bring in a slightly different tone. That is, I think I'm going to go with a little reddish, a little umberish, slightly, because there's a little heather on the hillside there. Right, this is delicate. Let me think. Yes, something like that is coming in, comes down like this a little bit. Put a little blue in it. A little blue, a little red. Should it be a little bit darker? Right, and in the middle there, where I'm pointing there, we're going to have our big cast shadow from the cloud. So I think we'll leave it like that for the moment. Quite a while, it's got to come up to that line there. Right, and then a different green in here, a slightly brighter. In fact, I've got a feeling that my green, I need to have a little bit more in there on the count of it going to be drying an awful lot lighter. Right. Okay, I'll try and put some different shades in there with a little bit of tone. bit of brown or yellow. There's a nice little trackway going up there. When you look, you can see lots of details. But I've got to, you go from the general, broad picture, and then do the details later. So it's 3 stages really. Do the blocking in, then some more work, and then the 3rd and 4th stage and go to the fine details. So let's get our little hillside in. Got to get a different green. As I said, it needs to be a fair bit brighter actually. Yes, that's not too bad. That's not so bad. Just wash it in. That's right, look. And right down to the shoreline. I'm going to put some different greens in here. Gee, well, I've got this one, I can make use of it. Just tickle in this, on this outcrop. There's quite a nice clump of trees here. We came down to the shoreline there. Different ones here. Excuse me, the paper is still damp, so if you tap in before it gets too dry, these colours can diffuse and give you some nice effects. Right, we'll leave that. And actually, while I've got this colour, I can tap in here, still make use, give us lots of different greens. We can get it. Right. Now we need to, along the shoreline, sort of bit of the yellow there, a bit of yellowy ochre. I think I get a little brush or something with more control. I go to my number 8. What should I do? Yes, let's get a little something. Gives it a little bit of colour. Actually, well, it's changed my mind. Still a bit damp there. Put some red marks. Get some different tones. in here. And I'm going to put a sheep there, so I better not put any dark marks at the moment, because I'll put them in white. This tree, which I'll put in shortly, is quite dark, quite a lot of shadow. So I'll try and do something like that. And yes, let's get back to that shoreline, which I was going to put something in. I think I was going to do it a little ochre colour, yes, I think. Right, well, we've got something of a colour there. Let's beef up the yellow a bit. Right, we'll leave it at that. And I think now we could probably wash in the, oh no, let's put in our nice shadow from the cloud. So I do that with a little bit of ultramarine, nice bluey colour then a bit of crimson alizarin. You can get this beautiful shadowy colour. Can you see that? Sort of dark purple. And it's got a nice shape, so I must try and... It's not solid, but there are solid elements to it. And it comes right up to the edge of this mountainside, so that gives me a chance to define it if I just lay it in like that and soften that edge a little bit. Right, so to soften it, I'll wash my brush out, dry it off a little bit, and see if we can make some of those edges less sharp. Like that. Right. And could do with a little bit more definition into this this mountainside here. Still making it fairly vague. I'm noticing sort of on the hillside here a lot more variety there. Okay. Little bits of that tree need to be darker at the foot of it and on this shadowy side. Also these, try and give some variety of depth, otherwise it looks flat. And going up the bank there, greens. Right, let's press on. Right. Sometimes you need a harder edge. Sometimes you need a soft edge. Depends. Right. Let's wipe something in the castle here. I think that's, what colour is it? Difficult to tell. Sort of browns and purple greys, I don't know. Let's have a look what we can come up with. Something, yeah, something fairly neutral, I think. Just wash it in. Oh, no, that's a bit too dark. Bits of it anyway. Little bits here along this is more shadowed. As I say, it's just a ruin, so you don't have to be that precise. And along this side of that big round wing comes right down to the water there. Got dark bits on the turrets, catch varying degrees of light, and along here that's quite dark in the shadow of that big old tower here. And this gable end really quite dark. It's not getting much sun there. So I can leave some of my whites in. It's a feature of the watercolour, you can do that. You use the paper to give you the white, so I'm just going to wash in a little bit of the darker colours there, sweep them. So I don't want a glaring white, I want to retain some of my white so you can see the castle there. And I think I'll beef up my darker bits here with a bit of Payne's grey there. On that bit there. And you've got some windows, and all bits of here's quite a dark element here, more hidden. As I said, this part of our tower, quite dark. And that wall. And the end of it comes down here. Quite a defined part of the ramparts there are darker. So we'll leave it like that. Now I got all the right windows. All the maybe tumbled down, or who knows. These warring Scotsmen, some rival clan, decided to take revenge. Gosh, if these walls could talk, what could they tell us? Yes, they would tell us a tale, I'm sure. Right. Let's avoid doing too much. Right. Put some dark bits of our shore here against the water, some shadow line, so I can give ourselves that. And that gable or tower, what do you call it? Sort of gables, tower of some sort. Okay, let's leave that for the moment. Now I think we could, should we go for our tree? See if we can put something there. Give some umber, some burnt umber. This one here, a good colour to do. Mix it with a sort of sand. That's a bit too browny, but I can put different colours, little bits of green and darker blues, and I want to try and get some dappled colours in now. So let's just put in a general outline for the moment. See if we can get the shape right. Obviously needs to be a lot darker than that in places, which we'll do. Let's just make sure I've got the general line of the tree. Yes, that's better. Comes down like this. We'll go in with a much smaller brush later, just trying to get some general layout of our branches. Get it a bit. as I say, this is just the general shape that I'm trying to get in here. Avoiding doing a sort of generic tree, which is so easy to do. You think, oh, these trees are like this, but each tree has a form and a character of its own. So the general main limbs, of course, you try and get accurate as you can, and the other ones you can be a little artistic license with. Be very careful. Try and make it read. That's fairly accurate though to my reference in the terms of its general shape. So got a few more. It came out this way. Quite fine ones. I'll do something with those later. They've got lots of things coming off them. I've got to get as I said, I want to try and get some lights on this tree. There's sort of dappled effect on it. So I suppose I could do that with some gouache, or try and wipe out and leave some lights in there. Right, how does that look? Is it coming on? Yeah, I think I could just put some darks in, some dark elements right away. So I'll get some Payne's grey and some darkish greens. Just see how we can go. I can try and represent where I can see darks on our reference photograph. Yes, a little darker. If you look very carefully, you'll be amazed at the detail and the lighting. The thing about art, once you start getting into it, you look at everything differently. You start to really observe the world, where until you started, it just passed before your eyes. You didn't always pay that much attention. But if you trying to represent it in art, you suddenly realize, wow, what did it really look like? Was that really there? Right, I think I should leave this until I'm using a smaller brush. Certainly got some more darks in there. Hopefully the lights will show. Certain if I put a bit of gouache in the right places, maybe. Actually, out on the end of these now, I could put a little bit of greenery, and I'm going to do that with my fan brush. This one, get some, actually it's fairly brightish green, because it's catching the light a fair bit. So here we go. Let's yes, it did come out here, and I can put in some fine marks with a smaller, you know, to try and capture the twigs, which it did come right out here, pretty much over here, so here. And also, say in the body of the tree there. Right, while I'm at it, I can maybe get some more texture into our grass here. We go with a dry brush to get some long grasses. Now, have I got enough? Yes, let's keep it light. Actually, I could put a little flecks of slightly darker green. So what I'll do with that is get your normal greens or green you choose to use and put a little bit of blue into it, and that will give you a much darker green. So yes, you see that? You see that? Yes, that's it. It's all about getting some variety in there, standing up against the lighter green that I had. Put a few in there, and we had a little bit there. Right. Okay. A little over there. Right. Okay. Now, where do we go from here? Do you think we ought to put our sheep in? We could do. They are a rather nice feature of this scene. So let's get some white going for that. Some gouache and a brush that's going to carry a nice blob of white, because they're fairly sizable in our picture. So I think I'll squeeze out a bit there. Let's see what we can do. let's crack on. I'm trying to remember I did do the shape of these sheep, so I'm going to try and follow my little sketch. And I'll put some, they're not going to all be white, of course they'll have some tones in them, because they're never going to be that white anyway. Roaming here on the hillside. I think that one had a lamb suckling there. So I'm going to try and get that. Yeah, I've got another one here with some brown marks on him. I'm going to another one here. Hidden a little bit behind our things. Right. Yeah, I've got to put in some other tones to try and create the sheep's shape. Nice round form there. And in our foreground we had some lovely lambs. You could just about see my sketch. Right. Yes. Yes, we've got the fellow. This one's head on, so he's a little shorter form. Try and keep a bit of a conical shape. Right. I like some white castle there, I think. Well, I got the white. There's a few things on the shore. A few highlights. Righty-ho, how many sheep? Yeah, I had one brown one. There's one brown one behind there. So I think we'll map him in with a little bit of this paint, squash, and then we'll drop some colour into him. Yeah, but that's his basic shape. And now I need to get some colour into him. What colour? What's this sort of fella? He was sort of cream, a sort of browny colour there. Pretty much how he was. And I need to put some colour in these, on the front of these sheep and their bellies, so that they look a bit more real. To try and define their form a little bit. And this one with the lamb, I think, suckling there. this one. Give him a bit of a... Oh, we got to put some ears in these as well. These are just sort of general suggestions of the sheep, which you can do if you a little bit imaginative. That's it. There's his belly there. Right. And our brown one, we still haven't got him fixed yet. Yes, he needs to be a... That's better. Get his shape. And his head is coming here. Do something a bit with his legs. Something a bit darker. Give him a little bit of tone to his head there. Ridge over his back. His black legs, this fella. It's the shadow of these guys. Right. Now my hillside there is just looking a bit too flat, I think. I need to try and produce something. In fact, there was a little track going up here. Right. Shall I put some more veg into this one? Yeah, perhaps we should, but I've got to be careful not to make it too bright, because it will come forward then. I don't want that. This can have a little bit more texture there. Say with this Langton's Rough, if you move your brush along just lightly, the tooth in the brush picks something up. Right, let's get our small rigger, see if we can give some nice twigs out here. See, they're just a little bit missing at the moment. I get some, I've got a rigger brush here. This is number 6 rigger, Daleroni rigger. And get something sort of fairly neutral tone. You don't want it too black, or black at all in fact, but it's got to be sufficient to read against your other marks. Right, There's something there. I think I need, I feel a little too strong. A few in here, I think we could do that. Say they've got something of a will of their own, these. Right. You don't want to overdo it because you want to be able to see through the tree, which is a nice feature of this. I wonder if I could improve some of these. I could use this little one and see if I can get these little sheep with my rigger. I've got a bit more control over it here. Legs here. And this fella, quite a black face. This one's lying down. And if I put a little dark under here, maybe it'll show our shape of our sheep. Suddenly these sheep have become blackface sheep. And the magic of watercolour. Quite dark. It's not purpley enough, bluey enough. I think I'm going to take a brush and lift a little bit of that off, out with a dry brush there, and wipe it on your tissue. Like that. You can do it with a good quality paper. And then I'm going to put a bit more vivid purple in, I think, or violet. I've got one here actually. If that will be better, yes, I think that's what I'm looking for. Yes, that's better. Right, a bit bluier in darker places. Right, take a little tissue. If it's a bit too dark. Right, I think I'll leave it at that. Could put a bit of different texture in there. That's it, different colour And that's it. And I think I'm going to use a little bit of this white that I've got to give me some highlights that they were on this tree. I've got the darks. There were some bits were really catching the sun. So there and up here. A little bit there. So I try to get some of the dappled effect that there was definitely in the tree. Now I think if I take my rigger brush again with some thick greenish paint, I can put some little bit of vegetation down here which will read a bit better, define the plant a little bit. Excuse me. So I'm going to get using my rigger here. Oops, there, like that. And I'm going to flick a few tufts of grass, which we've got here. And perhaps a little bit in here. Right. Could introduce a little bit of a reddish colour more in this foreground vegetation down here. It's really quite red. I think it must be bracken. And I think I can put a little darken up under our tree with that green, because there is shadow, and a little darker green will make it read a bit better, I think. Down here is it's really under the shadow of this old tree. Came right up behind those sheep there. And around this fella. and I think it was cast a little bit further as well into right up against this chap here. Right. Okay. Let's leave it at that. Well, there you have it. This is an old ruined castle in Scotland. I can't quite see where it is, but certainly the Scottish Highlands. So I hope you like that. Well, here's the finished article. I've tried to keep the bright light streaming through the tree there, and the hillside with the shadow of the clouds cast upon the valley between those two hills, and the hill just behind the castle on the right is a little bit muted in colour because it's further away than our hillside here on the left behind the tree, so that's a little bit darker in colour. And I've dropped our sheep in. I don't think they're going to pass any veterinary inspection by James Herriot, but I think they're good enough for our purposes. So I hope you've enjoyed it.